What makes a great offer in this market? You're about to find out. Stay tuned. So there are 10 things you really need to do in order to get your offer accepted in this market. It's a seller's market. There's not a lot of inventory. There are a lot of people fighting for that same house. So you need to make yours stand above and beyond everyone else's. What are the things that you can do to ensure your offer gets accepted over someone else's? So here are a couple of hints and tips to make that happen. Number one, you need a mortgage pre-approval. You need to talk to a lender or a bank and get a pre-approval. This will help your offer stand out against someone who doesn't have one. Generally, a lender will take some of your information, so they will look at your credit score, see how much money you bring in, and then determine safely what is an amount of money that you can borrow. So there are two types of letters a lender will offer you. There will be a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Pre-approval is definitely a much higher tier. You're much more guaranteed to get the financing that way. They look at your credit score, they look at your income and your finances, more able to directly correlate how much you can borrow versus just a pre-qualification. Step number two, you want to limit your contingencies. You can't go into a seller's market and ask for the world. In supply and demand, when there is no supply and you're demanding, in a market where you have buyers that are willing to forego their inspection contingency in order to get the home that they really want, you really can't throw any contingencies to the wind. You really need to be serious about what you want and really not be too picky in this market. Step number three, in order to make it rise above everyone else's, you really need to make it competitive. From what we've been seeing here around the Milford, Worcester County area is 20, 30, sometimes or 50,000 above asking is normal. Let that sink in for you. I did have a client who lost, or was outbid, I should say, by another offer by $50,000. He was not willing to go up that high, but that just is what it is. You need to be prepared in this market to go at least $20,000 or $30,000 above and beyond. Step number four, you want to increase your earnest money, or money you're putting down with your offer. The norm could be $500 to $1,000. Generally, if you put down more, it shows that you're a much more serious buyer. You have great intent to purchase the home. There are some buyers who will put $500 in this offer, $500 on that offer, and are really trying to play the field, so to speak, in order to get a home, especially in a market like this. If you have higher intent, that buyer will definitely put down more money to show that they are extremely serious about purchasing your home. Step number five, in order to help your offer get accepted in this market, there's something called an escalation clause. Here's a great example. If there's a home that's $300,000 and that's the asking price, you will write an offer and check with the offer for $300,000. An escalation clause is a clause in which you will say, I am willing to go up to X price. So say that home is $300,000. So you're willing to go up to $330,000 up in $1,000 increments. So if there's someone else who bids $310,000, for example, your offer will state that you are willing to go to $311,000, and that would be your final offer, essentially. If no one else bids up to that amount, it's yours. So that's how an escalation clause works. This comes incredibly useful in a seller's market where you are vouching, where you are basically fighting to get the home that you really want. Step number six, many times you can have your buyer write a letter to create a personal connection to the seller. For example, if your buyer happens to be in the military, the buyer notices something about their home that reminds them of a home that they used to grow up in. Maybe the kitchen cabinetry is similar, or the layout is similar to their parents' home that they grew up in. That is something that is good to tug on heartstrings and really make your offer stand out. So that's really a good tip to try and get your offer accepted. What are we on, step number seven? Are we on step number seven? What number are we on? Step number seven. If you have the ability to put all cash down, that is certainly one way you could scrub all the other offers. Cash talks. If you're able to go and say, I will pay cash, there's no need for financing, there's no need for lender approval through that entire process. That is by far one of the better ways to get your offer accepted above and beyond. Some interesting things that we've been seeing is the waiving of inspection contingencies. That is generally not the norm, but in such a tight market, these houses are being hard fought for. There are cases where a lot of people are willing to waive contingency in order to get their home. So that is definitely something that you could think about. I personally wouldn't recommend it, ever. It is happening, and it is definitely some way where you can ease the mind of the seller, where this is a way that you can definitely get into a home if you're willing to incur the repercussions of not having an inspection. Another way to get your offer accepted in this seller's market is offer to close quickly. If you have a lender that is able to close relatively quickly, or quicker than your competitor, that is definitely a way where you will be able to make your offer stand out and above someone else's. If you're able to close in 21 days versus 45 days in some cases, especially with COVID, there are some lenders that run a little bit longer. That is most definitely a way you can put your offer above and beyond someone else's, but you need to make sure that can happen with your lender. That's worth several phone calls to make sure that's doable and can happen. Is before you even start looking and getting in a realtor's car and driving around looking at houses, you need to know what your criteria is, you need to know what your price range is, and a realtor can most definitely help you with that. But one of the biggest things you need is to talk to your bank first. Get yourself a pre-approval letter before you talk to a realtor. Before you talk to a realtor. That is one of the biggest things that will slow your process down. It will help with your offer, you will need it. There aren't many realtors that'll take you out now or think you're serious unless you have at least a pre-qualification, if not a pre-approval. So that's the tip of the day. If you like this video, this next video is going to talk about the home buying process. So stay tuned for that.